A very good evening, everyone. I hope till now you all had an amazing journey full of insightful takeaways. The last panel discussion, which we had on employee experience in hybrid times, gave a clear perspective that in this fast paced adoption of hybrid work, it has led to the emergence of trends that HR leaders must be cognizant of, parallelly creating the best employee experience for their workforce. Taking it further, it's now to the most interesting masterclass on workforce trends, which is based on talent ecosystems. We will talk about different instances so on. And here, I would like to let you know that as per Deloitte's adaptable organization framework, the talent ecosystem in the internal and external space in which the organization is operating, effectively managing a workforce that comprises internal and external players in a way that is both aligned with an organization's strategy and consistent with its values is a critical business necessity. At a high level, talent ecosystem involves training and education across your organization. This includes reskilling your workforce, cross training in other areas based on skills, and providing internal as well as external training. Greater investment in talent ecosystem is needed for the teams to be ready for the flexibility and to foresight future success. In this special masterclass today, we will be talking about developing the adaptable talent across the organization, empowering your workforce, and redefining how you measure productivity and many more. To understand it better, it would be a great pleasure for all of us to introduce our eminent speaker, Mr. Gaurav Lahiri. Mr. Gaurav Lahiri is the partner with Deloitte Consulting, leads the Human Capital Service Division. He brings significant experience in consulting, focusing primarily on organization transformation, leadership development, and M&A. Gaurav's expertise includes reviewing strategies, designing organization structures, implementing talent management programs, and formulating reward strategies to drive performance and motivation. While Gaurav's acumen is in organization effectiveness, where he has helped clients research and develop competency model for outstanding performance. He managed a seminal Indian CEO research study sponsored by Bharat Petroleum under the aegis of India's Public Enterprises Selection Board and co authored the book The Indian CEO, A Portrait of Excellence, is published in 2007. Gaurav has authored several papers on post merger integration, change management, and has won several prizes and awards, including the McKinsey Best Management Paper of the Year. Wow! Let's welcome Gaurav with a huge round of applause. Before beginning the masterclass, I would like my audience know that you can post your valuable questions in the Q&A provided. Please note that the best questions who will be posting, we will be messaging you on a personal note. So please make sure that you reply to us. As we begin our journey forward, let's start this session with a very interesting question. Gaurav, we know that your expertise is in organization effectiveness, developing competency models for outstanding performance. What is that one thing that worked well for you and your organization during the pandemic?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me over in your masterclass and for your glorious introduction. I don't think I deserve so many kind words. Uh, getting on with it, if you ask me, one thing that worked is really focusing on what matters, right? Having that filter in every action, every gesture, to really focus, is this something that truly matters? Because through the pandemic, everything was up for discussion, whether it was what are you doing with your life, with your work. So many things changed, and so many choices came your way. We went through so much of uncertainty and chaos, and I think at every juncture, just constantly questioning yourself, is this something that truly matters? So having that very strong sense of focus and prioritization helped, because with so many things coming your way, I mean, you just had to get organized, and having that filter helped me personally as well as in my team and organization. What truly matters? That's the question.
Amazing. Amazing, Gaurav. That is very true because focus, prioritization, and planning is something which leads to excellence. And definitely, pandemic taught us uncertainty and resilience. So that is all about the adaptability and how we are moving ahead with flexibility. So thank you so much, Gaurav. So moving on to the another perspective, I would like to know that as per one of the reports by Deloitte, the vast majority, I would say about 87% of companies include some external workers when considering their workforce composition. At the same time, most workforce related practices and processes focus on full time employees, not external workers. So, workforce planning, talent acquisition, performance management, compensation policies, for example, all tend to focus on full time and sometimes on part time employees. So you can see there's a lack of integrated approach to manage a workforce in which external workers play an large role, I would say, or I would say the huge role. So how do you manage it or make sure that there is a balance?
Great question. Um, this Deloitte study that came across, we did some work together with MIT in the year 2021, and what we found is that something like 87% of organizations today are saying that when we think about our workforce, we are not following the strict definition of people who are on roll, FTEs, but actually we are looking at it more holistically as people who are working on contract, who are gig workers, people who are coming from another service provider doing technology work, and just people who are freelancers, etc. So we are not. So 87% organizations saying that we don't consider ourselves as in only a group of full-time employed, but actually a much wider definition. But then if you flip the question, that to what extent do organizations feel prepared, right? That's actually the inverse. So actually, the participation of gig workers, external workers, has increased, but the preparedness inside the company has actually gone down, or it's not
Okay,
there.
okay,
So I think without a doubt, that is a challenge, and that balance is something that has to be established, right? Now, I mean, I don't want to trivialize this discussion, but if I was to take a very simple and micro example of a family running a household, in Bangalore, right? And you have obviously the immediate family could be parents, or a husband and wife, maybe one or two children, who are there. But then to run a full-fledged establishment with everybody busy, you probably have service providers, people who deliver things to you, people who obviously maybe even doing housekeeping, people who help with the cooking, people who deliver things, people who are sort of people who provide internet service, etc., etc., right? Or or the close by the electrician who comes to help with various issues that you may face, or plumbers for that matter. So the thing is that, uh, if you have to run a harmonious household, right, you have to treat this entire ecosystem with respect as one, and give them their due credit, recognition, and feel like they're all part of one whole, versus we are the family. This system of whatever we have is for us, and everybody else just are accidental to that, right? So when you have a situation like that, you'll find the harmony in the household actually disrupting. You'll find things falling apart because people don't feel like being contributing to that type of an entity, right? So I'm just kind of trivializing it to make the point that even if you think of a organization of 100,000 people, could be an Amazon, or whatever, huge organizations, the same principle applies, right? If you start to think of your identity as all the people who are on my payroll, who are fixed term or permanent employees, and the rest are this there to provide service and are incidental, it's not going to work, because nowadays, in organizations, you'll find that more than the existing full-time employees, you actually have more people involved in providing services, support, technology, help. And if you don't treat them all as one, you'll find organizations starting to crumble, right? I mean, like the same Amazon example, they're probably more than double or triple of the full-time employees are actually contractors, service providers, etc. So if they don't feel part of that setup, it's a challenge. So absolutely, you've got to start to think of it as one whole, and whether it is compensation or benefits, or it is career development or learning, maybe you've got to start to think about offering the entire spiel, right, to the whole works. And going back to that example of running a house, right, when you have festivities, when you have Diwali or Durga Puja, if you involve everybody into the celebration, then everybody feels nice and wants to be part of that, versus it's all sitting in the family and everybody else is outside, right? So that's the whole analogy which we need to look at a macro level.
That's so true, Gaurav. You know, that belongingness plays an essential role to keep each and every part, or I would say each and every member who belongs to that organization, to make them feel motivated, and definitely that integrity, the complete integration, that
Hmm.
plays a major role. So that's so true. The perspective which you have brought on the table. And moving further, I would like my audience know that please post your questions in the Q&A segment. So in the top right corner, you can see the Q&A segment where you can post your questions, which we will be addressing. And also you have a poll segment. So there we are launching the polls in during the session. So please ensure that you are answering to those polls as well. So, Gaurav, another set of interesting question for you. And even I'm curious to know about it. So, when I was drafting my script, even I was curious that yes, I would learn more on this. So, the question is, how do you control your culture when more of your work is done by people who are not part of your value system and culture? How can companies close the gaps? Or we would like to hear your thoughts on it.
Great. See, first and foremost, the world that we live in today, right, which is highly uncertain, and you don't have all the answers sitting inside the organizations. You just have to respect the fact that we need to bring in diverse thinking, diverse perspectives, to help create value for the organization, right? So one person may not know it all, but we just need to get a whole lot of people together. Uh, and what that means is that when it comes to culture, I would say more than culture, the main thing I would focus on is the leadership. How do leaders show up in today's time, right? Uh, if leaders who will be much more uh, all encompassing, they create a sense of belonging, they bring people in, to the thinking, and have a lot of empathy,
Mhm.
they are going to be vital. Because culture, as it exists, it's not going to be the same, right? I mean, uh, we are not going to able to anymore define culture as a static piece of an organization, which is this is the way we do things, this is our culture. It's actually going to become a highly dynamic process and evolving. And the way we think of ourselves, our identity in our organization, it's going to continuously change. uh, and I think what matters is to have leaders who are able to understand that, and be able to drive that. So so rather than worrying about controlling culture, you should see how do we evolve culture, how do we continuously take in new inputs, bring people in, and evolve. No different from today. If you think about at a very meta level, what is it like to be an Indian, right? I mean, we have people who have different perspective, different ways of living, being. And do you actually say that being an Indian is going to be static, is going to be the way it is forever? No, right? I think be what it means to be an Indian is going to keep evolving every year, every 2 years, based on inputs. And we just have to keep embracing that and evolving with it. So that's my sense. So I think rather than control, I think we should just encourage evolution and just be the best version of ourselves.
So true, Gaurav. So that's really true that the culture, and it's very true that we cannot control anything. It's all about how the leaders are embracing, how the leaders are creating that evolution among the employees, among the other staff members, those who are working in the organization. And definitely, as we always say, that lead by example. So it's all about how the synergy is being made to fill these gaps and to move ahead. So that's really insightful, Gaurav, to know about it, your perspective. And truly, if you ask me, that was a great learning for me because as a newbie in HR, so definitely even we tend to learn, we tend to brainstorm, we tend to think on different larger views, right? So it was really good to know, and definitely in future even I would try to ameliorate and incorporate in my what I would say the practical tasks whatever we perform. So that was really helpful, definitely. And being the part of associate engagement, so definitely culture is something which plays an important role because it's all about how we are engaging. So definitely I have to learn it more, so thank you so much for that. So another question is something a bit unique, I would say, apart from the questions which we had a lot of discussions on. So this is on, as we know that impact of the pandemic was such that things changed in the corporate space, and it happened so quickly that it has become difficult for even the well established organizations to predict what will happen in the next 5 to 10 years. So, how the nature of work, or you can say the transition from long term jobs towards project based work, and also the workers' preference. It can be loyal, it can be freelancers, it can be neutral employees, change in such a scenario.
Yeah, great question again. This entire process is just going to move faster and faster, right? I mean, the evolution from the typical process-based way of work to more of a team-based or a project-based approach. It's just going to happen every in every place, everywhere we look at it. I mean, organizations are continuously now re-looking at work and saying that what are the most crucial aspects of this work, right? Is it something that can be done by a full-time employee? Could it be done actually by a bot? Could it be done by an actual physical robot? Could it be done by a contractor? So no, so people are not going by conventional way of work, but actually really asking the deep questions on what is the most significant part of work and who should be doing it. So the typical process based makes way to more of a project based culture. and we are working. And similarly, when it comes to employees, right? I mean, because of this entire pandemic and everything that happened in terms of working from home and the need for more flexibility, people are certainly looking at far more flexibility at the workplace. They're also looking for, I mean, millennials, which is the biggest population when it comes to the workplace, are saying that I want to get involved with work which is more meaningful. It's something that I believe in. So that's just making sure that this entire transition is happening much faster than ever. So, if you the analogy I would draw is, I mean, traditionally work would be, if you think of a manufacturing entity where you break down tasks into small parts and everybody does a part and gets done, right? From there, it's become going to become more like a creative or a movie making, like making a Netflix show. That's going to be how work will feel like. It's going to be, you have a big idea, you pull in a bunch of people together, you form a virtual team, you get together, you design things, you put things together, and you execute, and then you disband after that. So it's like, so that's how um, it's going to keep shifting and changing. And I would say that the organizations, the quicker they are to adapt to that type of ways of working, the better it is. So that would be my perspective.
Okay. So, with your perspective, another question just popped up in my mind. Like, as you know, that we have different generations in the
Mhm.
workplace, right? We have Gen Z, we have millennials, and so on. So, what kind of impact do they have? Whether this particular transitions, what is going on right now, is it worth exploring in future, or is it like the way the new what I would say the generations are coming in and joining the workforce? So will there be any impact on them as compared to the previous time when the normal we had a stipulated, or I would say the pre-designed pattern of working?
Yeah. No, I think increasingly you'll see that this generational view of the workforce will go away, right? Where you would say that, okay, there are people in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, and they tend to approach things in a different way. um, so I think the way it's going to happen is when you think about in consumer, when you think about creating products for consumers, right? You don't necessarily segment consumers by age groups or generations, right? You actually tend to look at their preferences. You create personas. So this is somebody who likes to, sort of use their spare time in this particular way. Is an introvert, likes to, enjoys being with people, is more outgoing. So you tend to create attributes of typical consumers, and then start to say that, is this the right kind of product that I have for that consumer. So you'll find progressively that employee segmentation will also become like that. It may be intergenerational. There could be somebody who could be 45 years old, or so there could be somebody who's 27 years old, but actually they're very similar in the way they approach life, they approach things. The sort of sensibilities are very similar. And the way they like to learn, the kind of programs they're interested in, the way they want to get paid, could be extremely different. So I think you'll find segmentation based on individual preferences, personas, types, versus generations. I think that's my perspective.
Okay, okay. That is really a broader perspective, Gaurav, and definitely it is a topic of discussion because, yes, with different generations coming in, there are different kind of perspectives coming in. So that's really true. So moving on to the next perspective, which I would like to ask, that is, technology is essential to enable workforce ecosystem, such as by improving internal talent management system and external labor platforms, and providing tools that enhance value, such as through data analytics, AI, or machine learning. So According to you, technology is transforming the way organizations engage with and manage their workforce. What are your views on it?
I think this is going to be a game. Technology is a game changer, and that is really the linchpin which is helping this future of work come to life, right? So there's no question about that. And you find that progressively using new technology platforms which are combining external talent marketplaces, internal marketplaces, um, and helping treat the talent ecosystem as one, are becoming the essential part of the game. So you find many successful examples where companies have got in one interface external and internal talent available, right? So when you think of a project, you're able to define the requirements and see, okay, who's available internally and who's available externally, homogeneously, and treat it as one talent pool, and define the pros and cons from a cost perspective. So I think that's fantastic, and that's something that we should just keep pushing forward with. The other is that technology is also becoming a worker, right? I mean, can you imagine? You know, I think it's NASA. They have you know uh, bots which do specific attributes, and they've actually given them employee IDs, unique employee IDs. So you start to think of various bots that have been created by technologists as part of your workforce. You've got I mean, large companies like Unilever, who have created one of the most fantastic talent marketplaces, using technology where you can harness and drive productivity. So technology is not just a very powerful enabler of talent ecosystems, but it's also actually a worker, right? And you've got to start thinking of, okay, what is the work that I can do with a full-time FTE employee? Where do I need a contractor? Where do I need a bot? Where do I need a physical robot? Right? I mean, somewhere I was reading, I think Amazon has 200,000 physical robots, and they are all treated as employees. So um, so that's something that I would say is going to be a key thing.
Amazing to know about your perspective, Gaurav. And definitely, technology is the enabler. So, with the changing time, the technology is evolving, and definitely the whole ecosystem is evolving. So, that's really great to know. So, now we have something interesting. We will be having a rapid fire round with you. So, are you ready, Gaurav?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you have to be very quick while answering, and
Mhm.
as you know, the rule of rapid fire, that it should not be a long sentence, as short as possible. Okay, so yes, let's begin with the rapid fire round. Flexi work or 9 to 5?
Flexi.
Okay, self paced learning or guided organization led learning?
Self-paced learning.
Gig workers or permanent workforce?
Gig workers.
How do you make decision when there is a very little information given to you?
Trust your team, make mistakes, learn from it.
One question you ask in every interview or a question you have included in your interviews.
Name the defining moments of your life and how did they shape you.
Oh, amazing. New competencies that HRs may have to develop.
Strategy.
30-second closing note, one thought to end by the speaker.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's been a great conversation. What I would say in the end is that, in the next 20 to 30 years, uh, the entire nature of organizations, work, uh, how things get done is going to dramatically change. It already has, but it's going to get much more, transformed. And at the vortex of all of it is the HR function, right? If you ask me, it's really going to be the guiding light which is going to help organizations navigate in these dark seas, so to speak. So I think more than ever, us as HR professionals need to be thought leaders in helping businesses understand and navigate what the future lies. So So I think it's our time, and we just have to occupy the space.
That
That's what I
was
would say.
really a fun-filled rapid fire round, and definitely a 30-second closing note. You have incorporated, I would say, everything all together. So thank you so much, Gaurav. But still, we have questions in the Q&A segment
Mhm.
from audience, and I know that even you are most intrigued and interested to know about the questions. So can we take those questions, Gaurav?
Sure, sure.
Sure. So, we have a question from Michael. He is asking, how do you plan to create job security amidst this uncertainty of IT and digital giants laying off in mass numbers? How is the ecosystem protected?
I think instead of thinking about job security, we should think about skill security, right? So let's all make sure that we have fantastic skills. We're great at what we do, and you'll find job security following that. Um, you know, I don't. I mean, we have now seen these recessions and times come and go over the last. I've been working for nearly 25 years, so I've seen it happen a few times. It's always a bit of a blip. It takes 1 or 2 years, and then things are, you stand back on your feet. So I think rather than worrying too much about job security, focus on, do I have the right skill sets to be relevant in today's day and age, and there'll be enough and more jobs to follow. That would be my response.
That's truly that's the need of an hour. That's very true, Gaurav. So I hope, Michael, your question is answered. And in case if you want to ask anything else, you are most welcome. So please do ask in the chat box. So the next question is, how is the Indian tech player shaping up against the major ones? Workaday, Success Factors, Oracle, HCM Fusion.
No, I think Indian tech players are shaping up very well. We are seeing Darwin Box come up very strong. Not only have they been able to build a very strong team and a strong kind of business model for themselves, but they're seeing a lot of success. A lot of companies are seeing them come up as the next big thing. So I think they're doing well. I think what are the key attributes of Indian companies, or what they need to do more of, is be bold, think big, right? I mean, if you want to be a successful global player, you've got to have scale, you've got to be global, and you just have to invest in having the absolute best talent in your team. So if you are having that ambition, scale, and the right people, you find success is following, and really, you're able to hit scale. So I think those who are following that model are doing extremely well.
Amazing, amazing. So the next question we have from Vinay Bagmere. He is asking, how can contract employees be treated financially on par with full-time on-roll employees when the very reason of hiring contract employees is cost saving?
No, I don't see that this has to be an either or. Yes, of course, from a company's perspective, um, contractors are very helpful uh, for cost reasons, because you don't incur the fixed costs associated with an employee. But equally, most of the organizations I talk to, their dominant logic isn't cost. It's actually finding the right people, and they may not be sitting in the current organization. You require somebody with a very specific skill set, qualification, experience profile, and you just can't find them. So you just have to look outside, and that's what is driving the thinking. And yes, as a result of that, cost is a benefit. Um, but I see that going hand in hand with the fact that, why can't this contractor be treated and have the same employee experience as a regular employee? Why the two things can go hand in hand? I mean, it can be a win-win, and that's what we have to pursue. We have to make sure that some of the benefits and compensation structures are consistent. We have to make sure that there's a learning program, then it's offered to both. If there's a company offsite or a big celebration, everybody should be invited, right? It shouldn't be okay. These are the this offsite is only meant for employees and the contractors can go figure, right? So I think everybody can have the same experience. It can be fantastic for all. At the same time, why can't the company benefit from a cost point of view? So I don't see this as a as a paradox. I think this is something which is an opportunity uh, to just create value for both.
Great. That's true because how we are adding value that really matters. And as we had already discussed previously as well, to create that belongingness among all these members of the organization. So that plays as a pivotal role.
Yeah.
So completely agree with you, Gaurav, on that. So moving on to the next question, what we have is with new labor codes coming in shortly, we will not be able to go with contract staffing for core roles. What are your thoughts on this?
So I have to say that this is not an area of my expertise. So I'm going to pass this question. But if you just make a note of it, what I'll do is I will have somebody who understands the labor codes review and revert back. So at least you get a response. Because I just don't want to get you a half baked answer. And, so I'll stick to what I know best.
Definitely, definitely. Since Deloitte deals with multiple clients and handle diverse portfolios, what is your focus while hiring the talent for your company?
I think increasingly we look for congruence in purpose, right? I mean, we tend to look at individuals who tend to have a certain passion around a wider purpose in life, want to make an impact that matters. So that tends to matter a lot to us, because as a firm we believe that our biggest purpose is actually making an impact that matters, right? So we look for people who are seeking that and embody that. That's at a high level. In addition to that, clearly, Deloitte is a partnership, right? So it's a firm which is co-owned by a group of partners, and for us, it's important that people have a highly collaborative partnership type of behavior. So as opposed to individual heroics and in excellence, I mean, we're not saying we don't want that, but what matters more is, can you come together as a team? So the cricket analogy, you can come and make a very brisk 50 runs and so make a lot of sixes, but if the team doesn't win, it's not much consequence. Rather, you make 20 runs and make some other people successful and may help the team win. So I think that is a very important aspect for us, in addition to the other usual aspects in a consulting firm that you see.
Okay, that is something I would say, bringing the best in your team, like
Yeah.
identifying the best potential, not best exactly, who is good at what, and accordingly channelizing their efforts so that they are also satisfied for whatever they are performing and delivering to their optimum level. So that's a great thought. So the next question is, may you kindly share some strategies pertaining to resilience building in organizations?
So to me, it's not organization. It's about individuals, right? It's about people, and the collection of the individuals and people become the organization. So I would say, first let's focus on what we as people, we as individuals, what you or me can do to become more resilient. And if you ask me, what we've just experienced in the last 2.5 years, if that didn't build resilience, then I don't know what else will, right? So, so I think we have to have this confidence in ourselves that we are resilient people as individuals. We are, you are, I am, because what we've just overcome is extraordinary. And I think that self belief, and continue to have conversations along that, and some of the best lessons we've learned in the last 2 3 years, continue to apply them day to day. If we as individuals are resilient and calm and collected, you'll find the organization is having the same attribute. So yeah, so you should just be resilient, and everything else will fall into place.
That's so true. This 2.5 years is the best example of
Yeah,
teaching resilience, uncertainty, adaptability, and whatnot.
yeah.
So completely
Recession
agree.
feels like a whimper to me, if you ask me, compared to that.
Exactly. So we have another question, which is, how will analytics and insights help in the metaverse?
Oh, it's a very very difficult question, but I think the metaverse helps you simulate real world test things, and if we were able to do deep analytics in the metaverse, probably it'll help us sharpen or test ideas, thinking, products, policies. In a really simulated environment. So, for example, if we were to experiment with a policy saying that should a company move to 4 days a week environment, is that more productive? So perhaps in the metaverse, there are personas, there are individuals, and where this kind of a policy can be tested to see what's the real life response, and then use that to implement. That would be my sort of relatively naive take, but that's how I would approach it.
Very true, very true. So we are good to the end. So Gaurav, before we end this discussion, if you can just summarize what your perspective is from this complete masterclass, and I would say, what advice would you like to give all of us from your end?
No, so I think the entire definition and boundary of what an organization is has changed, right? From the traditional process-based organization where you would have, clearly defined roles and defined skills, and you find people for them. From there to more of an ecosystem based approach where it's actually not just full-time employees, it's contractors, it's gig workers, freelancers, service providers, and especially in a technology environment, a lot of technology driven work is actually getting done by service providers and freelancers. So the definition has changed, but if you ask me, the preparation that organization has today to deal with this is not there. I think we have to just evolve our management practices, our leadership vision, uh, to embrace this ecosystem based approach versus an organization based approach. And the quicker we're able to do that, the more successful we'll be and the more belonging we'll create for the wider organization. And you'll just start seeing far greater success. I think in a nutshell, that's what we were talking about. And us as HR professionals, we just need to up our skills and competencies in some of these areas, which will help us be far more influential to business in times to come. So
Okay,
that's it
okay.
for me.
Thank you so much for the nutshell, or I would say the gist of the complete masterclass, what we have done. And we have one more, the last question which we have received just now. It is, in this VUCA world, is aligning vision of an organization with an employee's purpose still relevant and prevalent?
Relevant, yes. Prevalent, no. um, by all means, I mean, the greater the congruence between what an employee uh, has in their purpose and the organization, the better outcomes for both. But I would say we're a long way off in doing that, right? I mean, even if you think of something as simple as some of the leadership surveys or that we do, and 360 feedback, there isn't enough of a prevalence on where contractors, external people are asked for feedback, right? On how things have happened. So I think just involving people on what they're when an organization is charting a course, trying to do something, getting feedback from a more holistic source. It starts there. First of all, if organization is able to get feedback from bigger audience and communicate more effectively, that's the start. And I think we could do a lot more in that. So I would love to see more prevalence.
I hope the question is answered. And Gaurav, this question is something personal to you. Mamta is asking, what keeps Gaurav motivated?
uh, what keeps me going is continuously finding a new challenge, um, and that's what keeps me going, and making an impact on other people. If I can change somebody's life to the better, get a smile on somebody's face, or make a difference, that gets me going.
Thank you so much, Gaurav, for such a wonderful masterclass, I would say. And I know that even our audience had a great time all together. Like, bringing everything under the single umbrella was really fantastic by you. So many perspectives, so many insights, so many thoughts, and how exactly the organizations are working and sharing the overall gist out of it. So that was really incredible. So thank you so much once again for sharing your thoughts and for your valuable time which you shared with us. So thank you so much, Gaurav.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me.